The new report has said that there is substantial evidence that the Israeli regime committed war crimes during a military campaign against the Gaza Strip last year. The existence of such evidence was announced by a joint report by Amnesty International, a London-based rights group, and Forensic Architecture, a research project based at the University of London. The report was prepared based on satellite imagery, eyewitness accounts, videos, and photos. The report said that Israel bombarded residential areas in the southern Gaza Strip between August the 1st and the 4th last year in response to the alleged capture by Palestinian fighters of an Israeli soldier. There's strong evidence that Israeli forces committed war crimes in their relentless and massive bombardment of residential areas, according to this report, sponsored by Amnesty International. The statement added that Israel has also carried out a series of disproportionate or indiscriminate attacks against Palestinians in Rafah. That report also called for investigations into compelling evidence of serious violations of international humanitarian law by Israeli forces. And in this past week, we carried news on the situation with Turkey. Turkey's military carrying out the heaviest assaults on Kurdish militants in northern Iraq since airstrikes began last week, this effectively ending a 2-year truce. Turkey has launched combat operations on two fronts, one against the self-proclaimed Islamic State in Syria, and another against the Kurdish Workers' Party, or the PKK, inside Turkey and in northern Iraq. During an emergency session in Brussels this past week, NATO offered support for Turkey's military campaigns, although some member states expressed broad disagreement over the crackdown against the Kurds. Another major news story, we'll tune to Radio Habana Cuba's Weekly Review, a program where we take a look at the week's top news stories here on Radio Habana Cuba. More than 2,000 migrants stormed the Channel Tunnel to reach Britain this past week. It was the single biggest incursion in more than 2 months, according to spokesman for the Euro Tunnel, a tunnel that operates between France and the UK. On Tuesday, migrants tried to enter the area surrounding the tunnel during the night. Security personnel, more than 200 people, as well as police, were called in. Calais is a magnet for migrants from war zones and impoverished countries who are trying to reach Britain. French police have been trying for years to remove migrant camps in and around Calais. However, the number of migrants arriving has been persistent. Many of the migrants hope to hide in trucks or other vehicles crossing into Britain. And another news story we covered this past week, the U.S. administration of President Barack Obama has rejected an online public petition asking for pardon of National Security Agency whistleblower Edward Snowden. The White House commissioned Lisa Monaco, Obama's advisor on Homeland Security and Counterterrorism, to respond to the 2-year-old petition posted on the White House's website on Tuesday. The statement said that Snowden's disclosures were dangerous, that he had severe consequences for the security of the country, and that he should come home to the United States and face the consequences. The petition calling for Obama to pardon Snowden was launched 2 years ago and gained at least 200,000 signatures, well over the 100,000 required to warrant an official response from the White House. It took 2 years for the White House to finally respond, and they said no, they are not going to give Ed Snowden any slack. They will not give him any pardon at all. That's all the time we have for this weekly review, taking a look at the week's top news stories, heard every Sunday right here on Radio Habana Cuba. Thanks for tuning in, and keep it locked in to RH3. Anytime to Radio Habana Cuba, don't forget you can listen to us on Real Audio by going to our website. We're streaming Real Audio online at www.radiohc.cu. That's the World Wide Web, www.radiohc.cu. Time now for The Xers Unlimited, a regular Sunday feature with Arnie Cordell. Arnie? Thank you, The X. Thank you, The X.
CQBX. This is Havana Cuba. CQBX, CQBX, CQBX. This is Radio Habana calling all shortwave listeners and radio amateurs. Welcome to... VXers Unlimited, Radio Havana's weekly feature dedicated to the fascinating world of radio communication.
Hola, amigos, radio aficionados, now listening to the weekend edition of the Extras Unlimited, when the number of moves up to around 70, but at the same time, the daily solar flux on 10.7 centimeters wavelength has stayed very close to 100 units. I am sure that many of you, the Extras Unlimited listeners, will want an explanation of why this is happening. And here it goes. Although the short-cut active regions have increased in number, they are very quiet at this moment, with no signs of increased activity. And this may change in the next few days, and the sun may produce another small peak of both the number of short-cut active regions and the daily solar flux. So we must keep monitoring the sun. I am Arnaldo Coro, your host here in sunny La Habana, Cuba, where we're going through a period of extremely high temperatures, representing some very interesting turbo something. This past week, we picked up here in La Habana and Artemisa provinces of western Cuba 2 meters amateur band FM stations from the eastern part of the island of Cuba, from Holguin and Las Tunas provinces. A very interesting turbo dusting event that made possible very nice two-way contact at both ends of the island. The forecast for the month of August, just released by the Cuban Weather Service, Instituto de Meteorología, says that more record high temperatures and very dry weather are to be expected during the upcoming month of August, what's now in progress. And as many of you know very well, high temperatures and very low humidity may produce temperature inversions that in turn provide the ideal conditions for the forming of tropospheric circles. Item 3, every Friday evening at 9 o'clock sharp, my Plaza Radio Club hosts an on-the-air roundtable meeting on the 2 meters FM band frequency of 145.7 watts. The meeting lasts for about an hour and includes up-to-date information about our club activities, as well as those organized by other nearby radio clubs like the La Habana Province Delegation of the Cuban National Federation of Radio Amateurs and national news from the Federación de Radio Aficionados de Cuba, our umbrella organization that is for the 158 radio clubs that exist all over Cuba. Our club's president, Juan Carlos, CO2WZ, Charlie Oscar 2 Whiskey Zulu, is the conductor of the on-the-air meeting, and he starts with a roll call that usually produces calls from stations from our own club and also shows the presence of radio amateurs from the adjacent provinces of Artemisa and Magabeque, as well as from clubs from all over Havana. Well, those that come from Artemisa and Magabeque own and operate stations with high-gain antennas that make possible to communicate on 2 meters FM at distances of up to 50 or 60 miles on a regular basis. My contribution to the Plaza Radio Club meeting every Friday consists of a high-frequency band propagation update, yes, it is, and forecast that is followed by a similar one for 2 meters band, our country's most popular amateur band. Everybody here has a 2-meter radio, FM. Cuban 2 meters band activity is practically all using FM, and it is amazing to be able to work stations that are hundreds of miles away while using the wideband transmission mode. Our club's on-the-air meeting also provides participants with international DX news and technical advice when required. Other Cuban radio amateur clubs run similar roundtables on a specific day of the week, something that generates activity amongst their members, as well as those from nearby cities and towns. Stay tuned for more Radio Hub-related information coming from sunny, dry, and hot La Habana, Cuba. I'm your host, Arnie Coro, Radio Amateur CO2KK. Back in a few seconds after a station ID. Yes, amigos, this is Radio Habana Cuba broadcasting with our 6 decibels gain omnidirectional antenna on the 25 meters band frequency of 11,950 kilohertz, from 15 to 18 hours UTC, running one of our 100 kilowatts transmitters. And here is now item 4 of this show today. So far, the Atlantic, Caribbean, and Gulf of Mexico tropical hurricane season of the year 2015 has followed the forecast made by several well-known experts, Cuban and foreign, that calls for a rather quiet initial period of this year's season that began, as usual, on the first day of June and extends until the end of November. According to the forecast, the first 3 months of this year's tropical hurricane season were going to be rather quiet. And so far, June and July have proven that the experts' opinions were right on target. Now, according to the Cuban Weather Service, Instituto de Meteorología, the monthly forecast for August, we're going to see a very dry and extremely hot month, something that will inhibit the formation of tropical storms in areas nearby to Cuba. But we must still keep a close watch many thousands of miles into the Atlantic Ocean, monitoring the formation and traveling of low-pressure wave areas that begin near the coast of Africa, more specifically around the Cape Verde Islands. Radio amateurs in Cuba and other Caribbean countries have participated in several emergency drills so far this year, getting ready for possible tropical storms and areas of heavy rainfall that so far have not shown up at all. And that's nice. Now, item 5. The ingenuity and problem-solving capability of us Cubans very frequently receive praises from visitors that enjoy riding in American cars built many years ago. Some of them coming back from the Detroit assembly line around the 1930s, 40s, and 50s. That ability to keep those American old cars running also shows up in the amateur radio world, where many Cuban hands have rebuilt and keep on the air some nice relics as Concept 2-mid-band communicators built around 1958, Collins radio receivers of early 1950s vintage, and many Hallicrafters receivers that are still working quite nicely. One of the reasons why those relics are still operational has to do about how well designed and how well built they were. Before I forget, there are also several Geloso Italian-built receivers and transmitters of the 1950s, as well as Marconi Marine radios that have been converted to operate on the amateur band. I am a happy owner of the Hallicrafters S40B receiver that is identical to the one my dad presented to me at my 14th birthday present way back in 1956. I gave away to a disabled radio amateur my original S40B some years ago. It was the one that my dad bought for me in New York during a trip to the United States. So when someone brought an S40B to a radio club meeting recently, I begged him to sell it to me. But now let me tell you the rest of the story. See what happened. Very nice. The owner said, "It is yours, Coro. Just take it away. Take it home. Because I imagine that the old Hallicrafter means a lot to you." And he was absolutely right. And Amigo Paco was absolutely right, for sure. I remember picking up the radio rebelde station broadcasting on the 40 and 20 meters amateur band from the Sierra Maestra Mountains during the year of 1958, telling Cubans about how the war against the dictatorship was going on. Now I must find the time to do the proper restoration that the S40B Hallicrafters deserve, to put it back in service. So far, it looks like the band switch and other critical parts are in pretty good shape, but I'm not thinking that this is a very easy job, because it will require, among other things, changing all the vapor bypass and electrolytic capacitors and testing all resistors one by one for their value. Fortunately, I have a good supply of new old stock vacuum tubes that are in one use on that single conversion receiver that was my coverage radio, the first one I had, that followed the World War II aircraft surplus receiver model BC-455B command set, also given to me by my dad, that covered from 6 to 9.1 megahertz. When the brand new in-the-box S40B came home many years ago, it was the first time that I could monitor for the a wide range of frequencies, something that led into my turning into a regular listener of both AM amateur radio operators at that time, especially on the 40, 20, and then 15 meters band, and AM shortwave